Manhood, masculinity, an idea that is being criticized and blamed in our times for everything that is wrong in our world. To be fair, every virtue taken to the extreme will become a vice, and the virtues of masculinity are no exception, because taken to the extreme they can create anxiety, homicide, rape, and war. But if manhood would be represented by one thing, that would be self-control. A mature man is not defined by extremes, and not taken to the extreme, the virtues of masculinity represent a gold mine for humankind that should not be tossed away. Yet, if we are being honest, friend, praise of good men is an endangered species, and everything good about manhood and masculinity seems to be forgotten, and when something good is facing extinction, it needs special attention. There are continuities of masculinity that go beyond cultural differences, and we have a duty to not label men and manhood as bad, rotten, or obsolete, because the elements that represent true and mature manhood are a blessing in a rough and merciless world. When thinking of giving and generosity, we often associate this with actions such as giving a gift or nurturing someone in need, but let us not forget a form of giving that is not so obvious and in plain sight. Let us not forget the man working in a coal mine and contracting black lung so that his child can attend college as he never could. We do not see him in the darkness of the mine or driving a truck at 3 a.m. on his fourth cup of coffee, spending much of his life earning money to finance a home his loving wife fell in love with. Learn to appreciate, friend, this form of giving as well, even if it is less obvious, and recognize the value of men who take action in silence and away from the eyes of the world. Manhood teaches the value of a careful system of rules within which anyone can work to gain advantage. Such rules give everyone a much more equal chance for success than they would have without the rules, and mastering these rules feels like survival to men, survival of themselves and their family. This idea can be easily observed in sports and games where fairness, not necessarily honesty, emerges. Think of the football player who is gifted with a foul that was not committed against him, who calls out the referee letting him know he made a mistake, while his peers urge him to keep quiet and take advantage of the misjudgment. Applaud the men who embrace the spirit of fairness, which is a cornerstone of manhood that allows trust and loyalty to be developed. Keep in mind, friend, that as a man you will be focused on the outer world more than the inner world, and expressing feelings might never be your strong point. In today's world, it may be seen as heartless and careless to focus on action rather than feelings, but do not be persuaded by this. When the woman that you love will be facing a challenge and just needs a listening ear, your way of supporting her will probably be to help with the problem that was making her upset and restless. This is not a heartless way of behaving. This means that you take her problem seriously, and trying to find a solution is an act of love and care. Anything less, like just standing around with a supportive smile on your face when the woman that you love is hurting, is an act of cruelty. Understand that solutions are a man's way of nurturing. General accusations that men pursue only power and control have appeared more frequently in the past decade than the appreciation for the billions of hours sacrificed by fair and just men to give themselves the leadership training needed to push themselves as well as others to higher levels of quality of life and to offer opportunities that might not exist without such an effort. Leadership, viewed from a mature man's perspective, is about gaining and having power and control to serve rather than to oppress. Applaud the men that put their time and skills to serve others and create a better world around them. Respect the ones not lured into the temptation of power and control, the ones humble enough not to become deluded by the influence that they have, the ones for which leadership is not about them. Let us not forget that keeping one's emotions under control is a great trait in times of crisis. Let us not ignore stories of terrible accidents where cars crashed on the highway, where blood and screams were everywhere, and where men in control of their emotions managed to put their efforts together and rescue the survivors before the cars blew up in flames. Accidents that are reported without the brave men that kept it together to save the ones that could be saved. Appreciate the men that go out of their way to keep themselves calm and collected in moments when panic would be a reasonable reaction. Look up to the ones not showing signs of despair when fear and doubt flood their minds. Take note, friend, how many blame strong men for having fragile egos just because they engage in competitions and fiercely fight to become number one, rather than recognizing the strength of their ego, the power to conduct a self-re-evaluation every time they lose. Embracing the ego and focusing on oneself by becoming better is not a selfish act when everyone will benefit from it. Have respect for the men that have the power to always ask, "What did I do wrong?" The men who have the humility to find the real answers for such a question. The men who focus immediately on correcting their shortcomings just before jumping into the game again. Such men take sports and competitions seriously because these engagements represent a perfect platform to also express intense feelings. Even though remaining always calm and collected with no speck of anger and resentment in your life is what you are being persuaded to aim at, life is not as simple as that, and suppressing anger and resentment will only lead you to moments of outbursts when anger and resentment will control you. Events happen, and being able to express anger in a positive way is a manly quality that is oftentimes forgotten. Look up to men who do not deny their impulsive feelings, but who find efficient ways to integrate them into their lives. Men who willingly express them quickly and intensely through sports or other activities. Men who understand the intensity of their emotions, never raising this intensity beyond the point of losing control. Men who are able to harness this energy and channel it into powerful, kind and loving ways. Observe, friend, that men who embody such traits rarely hold grudges and are open to everyone's individuality. Do not be persuaded by words and words alone, since many will attribute their actions to such virtues out of the selfish desire to be recognized for them, even though when the time comes to act them out, their actions do not match their wisdom. Words are cheap, and talking about such virtues requires little effort. When the challenges of life will catch up with you, will you embody these traits and act them out, or will you shrink away? What kind of man will you be?